everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you're new here, my name is Holly. I make food and fitness content, and if you're not new here, welcome back to the channel. So I am feeling a little bit nervous for today's video. First of all, grab your popcorn because I promise I am about to just be an open book for this Q&A. Let's just take this as we are having the world's biggest catch up because there has been a few things that I haven't spoken about, that I haven't touched on in a while, and I'm just gonna unload everything on you in today's Q&A on the video. But I do want to address, there was supposed to be a New York vlog this week. I basically had a solo week planned in New York. I got hit with some kind of like flu or virus on my second day there, which kind of meant I couldn't do anything that I planned to do. So the video was basically just me being sick. But I'm going to take the clips that I do have and mold it into one big vlog next week, rather than just uploading a 5-minute vlog of me getting a flu this week, because that's just not fun. But I'm out the other side of it, and I definitely wanted to get some kind of video up this week. So that was why I had the idea for a juicy Q&A and just a huge catch up, because like I said, I feel like there's been a few things going on that I haven't really like spoken about, and today we're just gonna air everything out and we're gonna get very, very up to speed. When I say 80% of these questions were revolving around one topic, which is essentially my dating life, 80% of these questions were revolving around my dating life. And also with this, I do not see the point in answering this if I'm just gonna like avoid the awkward questions. I promise you, I am just gonna answer everything and overshare throughout the next 20, 30, 40 minutes that we're together. I have written down your questions. I'm gonna ease myself in. I'm not gonna go in too juicy first, but the first question was, who do you follow on social media for inspiration? This really varies based on like my goals, but at the moment I would say my biggest inspirations, and to be fair, one of my constant inspirations is my best friend Lucy Davis. She is somebody that I absolutely idolize. I think she is absolutely phenomenal. If you don't follow her, you need to be following her, especially if you're a hybrid girly. At the moment, somebody else I'm absolutely loving is Paige Dana. Paige is again a friend of mine, but she is training for a full Ironman. I am just obsessed with her and her content at the moment, and because I'm training for triathlon, I'm just like loving seeing everything she's doing. Another influencer who I'm just obsessed with at the moment, and I've spoken about her before on my channel, is Annabelle Rosenfeld. She is an Australian influencer. She is also a hybrid girly. She's training for High Rocks at the moment. I just think she is incredible. Those are going to be probably my top 3 girlies at the moment. I could sit and list off like 100, but those are the top 3 that I'm constantly refreshing my feed for at the moment. The next question is, how are you? Like really honestly, are you doing okay? And first of all, I just want to say thank you. It's really kind when you guys check in on me, and you guys do. That I feel so grateful that I have such an incredible following. That number one, I feel like you guys like pick up on my moods. I think you just know me like better than I know myself, and I feel like you can tell when I'm being maybe a little bit off. So if we're being honest, I think over the past few weeks I've definitely felt very overwhelmed, and I've really been experiencing burnout. And I don't think I've ever really experienced burnout, but I'm trying to manage a lot, especially like behind the scenes. It may not seem that way, but like behind the scenes there's a lot going on, and I'm trying to maintain my life in the UK, my friends in the UK, my work in the UK, my life in the US, my friends in the US, as well as like myself and my job and my career and Strong Girl Society. And sometimes I kind of need to remind myself that I'm just one person, and I spread myself a little bit too thin, and that has kind of caught up with me recently. And I have had, you know, a couple of like moments where I'm just feeling very, very overwhelmed. But I think now I've acknowledged what I was doing and why it was burning me out and why I was feeling a certain type of way is great, because now I can move forward and make sure that I'm not doing that again. I think I was just falling into a bit of a place of being a bit of a yes man, and I'm not usually a yes man. Like I'm normally very firm with my work boundaries and my personal life boundaries, so I can make sure I can get everything done. But I think with moving, I've just wanted to say yes to a lot of things, and I've had people out and I've been doing a lot, and I think, yeah, it's just all caught up with me recently, and I've definitely been feeling a little bit overwhelmed and a little bit stressed, but I'm definitely on the other side of it now, and I'm moving towards having a calmer few weeks and really putting myself first and making sure that I'm not burning myself out. We're heading towards the juicier questions now. Somebody said British men or US men. From my personal experience, I'm gonna say British. British men, in my personal opinion, from what I have experienced in the dating pool so far, what I would be leaning towards. I personally would say I'm leaning away from the US men. However, I do live in the US. Therefore, the dating pool is majority US men. So those are probably the men that I will be dating. However, the experiences that I've had thus far, I would definitely say that British men seem to be what I would rather be leaning towards. Speaking of said dating pool, and I'm gonna group 2 questions together here. So somebody said, are you dating? And then somebody else asked, how do you meet men? Do they DM you? Are you on dating apps? So this is one that we need to unpack. So am I dating is a really good question. Like, do I even know this myself? I don't know. Up until very recently, I haven't spoken about dating. I haven't really touched on my dating life or anything like that because for a few reasons, I guess. Last year, my relationship, I feel like took up a lot of space in my personal life, but also space on my social media because I spoke about my breakup online. I spoke about my relationship online. So when I kind of closed that chapter, I really just wanted to move forward with my page and not kind of have it speak about my relationships or men or anything like that. And also I wasn't in a headspace to even be thinking about dating or speaking to men. So I closed that chapter in my personal life, but also like on my social media. And I was like, there's nothing really to speak about here because nothing is really going on. And up until very recently, I haven't really considered dating. I feel like the breakup that I went through was really crappy and it really hurt me, and I think you guys probably saw that from my content, but like I was in a really bad place after that relationship. So number one, I was and probably like still am quite terrified to like let anyone else in that way because of how it ended up. And number two, I think that relationship really revealed to me a lot of parts of myself that I need to work on, and from that point I have been working on those parts. And I've kind of been hesitant to date because I don't feel like I've really finished doing the work that I want to do on myself. And I feel like because of that, up until very recently, I haven't considered dating or like wanted to date, and I still feel the same. It's a bit of a weird one because I'm not actively dating because I don't want a relationship. So I'm not going on dating apps, I'm not seeking out dates, I'm not approaching men or anything like that. That's not how I'm acting in my life at the moment. However, if I was, say, out and about and I meet someone and we have a good connection and they were like, oh, we should go on a date, I would definitely go on the date and still explore that, but I'm not actively seeking it, if that makes sense. That is kind of where my head's at with it. I don't know whether that does make any sense to anyone else, but like I'm not on dating apps. I don't actually agree with dating apps. I went back on them for literally like 2 weeks and then I've deleted them, and I have sworn never to go on them again. I just really don't. I don't like them. I feel like they're very superficial and very fake. This rolls us right around to the next question. Somebody said, Orlando guy tea please. If you have not, and if you do not follow me on TikTok, you might not be up to date with this whole Orlando man scenario. So I'm gonna kind of give you my perspective and the whole situation of how I was involved in this whole Orlando man scenario from me. However, if you want the whole scenario and you want to hear everything, I'm going to link the podcast in the description box because there is 2-hour-long episodes on Orlando Man that this girl has basically done, because the whole story is like a lot bigger than what involves me. I was actually just a very small part to play in this, but if you're sat there and you're thinking, what on earth are you speaking about? I recently had a situation with a man where we met in person and we really clicked, we really connected, and it was kind of like, oh, we should like date potentially. This man lived in Orlando, I live in LA. If anybody isn't aware of their US geography, they're on other sides of the US. We met at a brand event, we met on a brand trip. Honestly, if you really want to like Google, you will find out who this man is very easily, but I don't want to give his name any more attention than it has already had. We met on a brand trip. Nothing happened on this brand trip. We kind of connected as like friends. It was more after the brand trip. We were like, oh, maybe we should like, you know, hang out a bit more and see like if this is, you know, anything. With us living on like opposite ends of the US, like one of us was gonna have to like travel to kind of hang out with the other one. I have a lot of like freedom with my job, whatever. He didn't have as much freedom with his training. So I was like, well, you know what, like I'll fly over. This is probably like the first guy that I've really connected with since my ex. Like it might be fun, you know, for the plot, whatever. Don't do things for the plot, kids, just don't. So we spoke a lot, we FaceTimed a lot, and I was like, okay, like I'll come over and see you. So I flew over to see him for, I think I was there for like 3 or 4 days. We had a really great time. One thing I am gonna say is people are probably like, oh my God, like that's crazy that like you hardly knew this guy and you flew. Like, did you not learn anything from your last relationship being like superly intense? I actually did. I have actually learned some stuff, because when I was on these 4 days playing house with this man, I was able to see things, guys. Like I feel like I have taken the goggles off that I had last year. Like if me last year met this man, I probably would have fallen in love with him. However, because of what I went through last year, I was like, I spot the love bombing, like I spot the narcissism, like I am seeing things for what they truly are. So I am learning, I promise I am learning. Anyway, I spent 4 days with this man. It was very intense, very like homely. He was like, I want you to be like the mum of my dog. Like we were taking his dog to the vet together. Like we were literally like cooking together. Like it was just very like we were like husband and wife kind of vibes. And he was like, I don't want you to go, like please extend your trip, like all this kind of stuff. Anyway, I leave said trip, I come back, and I'm being honest with you, I wasn't really feeling it 100%, purely because of the fact that we live so far away. He was like, I want to make this work, please come back on these dates. So I was like, fine, like I'll go one more time and we'll just see what happens. So I booked flights for certain dates. I then had another change of heart and I was like, I don't really like think I want to do this. It's just too much. Like it's taking time away from me being in LA, and I didn't work this hard to get a visa to come to LA to be like flying to Orlando like every other month to hang out with you. Bearing in mind, like throughout this whole thing, we were just dating, but it was very intense. Like we would sit on FaceTime for like hours in the day, whatever. That just kind of adds to like how wild this story ends up being. So I cancelled my trip. But after this, he's very much like, I still want to pursue this. Like I don't want to lose this. I think this could really be something. Why don't you come on this trip with me in summer or this trip with me in summer? Like he was like, let's make a shared Google Calendar and we can figure out like dates when we can next see each other. So I was like, okay, like just, you know, give me a bit of space to like consider things and think about things. This conversation was had on a Sunday evening. Then on a Monday, I am on my TikTok and I'm scrolling, and bearing in mind Orlando Man had gone a little bit quiet at this point for the past like 24 hours, and I was like, it's kind of dropped off the face of the earth. It's kind of weird after he said that he really wanted to pursue things and make things work. I'm scrolling on my TikTok and I see a TikTok from a girl called Nikki, basically doing a vlog saying, oh my God, like Orlando Man is flying me out to see him. And I was like, what are the chances of your Orlando Man being my Orlando Man? She pans the camera around, Tesla, puppy, boy, same boy, even though his face is blurred. And I was like, oh, that is my Orlando Man. I then go on her next video. She's done a get ready with me in his room, and she's basically posting like, oh my God, guys, like we were in bed last night and he was saying he's never felt this way about anyone. And I was just like, I also want to add, like, I didn't have a lot of emotional attachment because I wasn't like super invested. Like I said, I didn't see this man being my boyfriend. So I wasn't like upset. I was just a bit annoyed and I felt a little bit disrespected. Me and him had a friendship before we decided to date. So I was a bit like, meh, that kind of hurts on a friendship level that like you didn't respect me enough to tell me that like, you know, I could have seen this. But again, like we weren't exclusive. Like I'm not being like, he can't be dating anyone else. Like he was entitled to do what he wanted to do. That is not where the problem lies with this man. So she, in her video, was like, if anyone recognizes his bedroom, and I was just like, oh, I'm not playing into this drama. So I just left it. This girl, Nikki, then basically posts how multiple girls have come forward that were also dating him. And I'm not going to go into the depths of the rest of the story because this is already super long, but essentially there was 6 other girls who were also dating this man, some of which had been dating him for 3 years, some of which had said, I love you, that came forward after they saw Nikki's video. So at that point I was like, oh my God, I need to like also like address this, because when Nikki was there was when I was supposed to be there, which is so funny because I literally decided not to go and he like rallied to fill someone into my spot as soon as I said I wasn't going. He was like, I need somebody here stat. But yeah, he was dating like 6 other girls. I think there's actually multiple more that have come forward since as well. 6 of us are in a group chat and we're actually really good friends, so it's really nice. They're actually really lovely girls. And the one thing I want to say is, from my perspective, I definitely wasn't hurt. However, the way he treated these other girls is so unfair. Like, to have girls fall in love with you, to be speaking to them for multiple years, to have them involved with your family, to like ignore them for days on end when you're flying other girls out, and then gaslighting them into saying you're just really busy with training when you haven't been busy with training. You've had other girls staying in your home, in your apartment. Also, like, who has the time? Because me and him would sit on FaceTime for many hours, but he was then hanging up with me to then call somebody else for hours. He was also, one funny thing that we all noticed, he would copy and paste like messages to all of us, like send us the same photos. When me and him were in the vet, he took a picture of his dog and he sent it to all these girls like, oh, dog's first trip to the vet. And I was just like sat there like a freaking lemon next to him while he was telling me that he wants me to be the mother of his dog. Bizarre. But yeah, that was the Orlando Man tea. But like I said, for those other girls, like they've had to go through a lot of hurt of having spoken to this man for like 3 years, thinking that they are gonna move and end up with him and be with him, and because he's told them that, and actually he's been dating many other girls. Also, just from like a sexual health point of view, like that's vile and disgusting. But that is all I'm gonna say on that for now. Orlando Man is trash. If you ever speak to a man from Orlando who's an athlete, just run. Just like run at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I feel like that was a really big one and that took like a lot of explaining. But the next question is also one that I had a lot, and I'm just gonna talk about it because you guys have been through this whole chapter with me, so we might as well close this chapter as well. This question was, has your ex been in touch since you've been in LA? Yes, yes, yes. So when that relationship ended last year and I was absolutely devastated, I didn't think that we would ever speak again because just of how it ended so explosively and so horribly. Yeah, it was just such a, guys, it was just such a nasty situation. And I feel like I've never really gone into the depths of it, bar from saying it was a toxic situation. But like, I never want anyone to be treated to or spoken to the way that I was in that relationship, and having the distance from it now, like it's wild to me that I was even in that situation. Like, because I think of myself as like a very strong independent woman who, you know, stands up for herself. And I don't know, I honestly I can't even tell you what happened. Like, I genuinely can't even tell you how I let it get to the point it got to, and how I let myself be treated like that by someone. Like, it kind of infuriates me and it makes me feel really sad still to this day. And because of that, when it ended, like, I just was like, I can never speak to this person. I can never be around this person. They're not a nice person. I just need to like be away from them. And it ended in Greece. Like, there was no communication. You guys know, like, I then had to fly to Rome to get home, to come back to the UK, all of that kind of stuff. We've all been along for the journey. Like, we know what happened. And when I moved to LA, I think I had a good like 4 or 5 weeks here, no communication, no contact. And like, honestly, like, I hadn't really thought about it. But honestly, sometimes I feel like ex-boyfriends actually have like a radar on when you are doing really well. And that is when they just slide back in. They just slip their way back in. And that happened. And he basically wanted to meet to apologize. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I gave him the time of day to apologize. And the reason that I want to speak about this is because if you are currently going through a breakup and you are sat there thinking like, I deserve an apology, like I deserve them to like acknowledge how they've treated me and acknowledge the way I feel and say sorry, because that is what I was so hung up on last year. When we broke up, I was like, why is he not apologized? Like, he doesn't care enough about me to apologize. Like, he doesn't realize how much he's hurt me, all of these things. And I was so fixated on it. And I had to accept at one point that like that apology was never going to come because, you know, he wasn't capable of that. And that apology has come. And in that moment, when I got that apology and he finally apologized for the way he treated me, the way he disrespected me, XYZ, I just sat there and I thought like, I don't actually need this. Like, I've actually healed myself and I've got myself into such a good place that like I was fine without this. And you know what, like, okay, I can tick it off, like, you've apologized, great. But like, now I can just like completely move on with my life. And if you are sat thinking that you need that apology, like, trust me, you don't. Also, ultimately, like, that apology is only helping one person, and it's that person. It's helping them heal from the way that they've hurt you. It made me laugh because after this conversation, I came into my apartment and I shut my door. And I remember I just thought in my head, you know that song that goes like, war is over? I shut the door and I just sung that in my head. And I just thought like, I'm so done with that situation now. Like, I am so far removed from it. And I now look back, like I said, at that like girl that was in that relationship, and I don't even resonate with her. And like, that is actually such a nice feeling, because I will never, ever, ever let myself be in a situation like that ever again. Like I said, from the previous situation, like, I've learned, I'm learning, I'm not perfect, but like, and definitely moving forward, I'm never gonna hopefully have myself in a situation with like a man that like feels like it's okay to like treat women that way, because ew. Okay, I feel like I have genuinely just overshared on the internet for about 20 minutes, but I hope you guys have enjoyed that tea. Now we're gonna move on from the relationships because I feel like that is too much, but I promise to keep you guys in the loop. Like, if I go on any dates, you know, if anything like fun starts happening, I promise I will share it with you guys, because I actually love being nosy and hearing about other people's dating lives on the internet, and I'm really not opposed to being an oversharer. Somebody said, would you consider doing an Ironman or a 70.3 after your triathlon? My only answer to that is, please let me get through this sprint triathlon. Please just let me get through this, and then I will come back to you on that. I don't know if it's something that would ever happen this year. Actually, in fact, I can say it's not probably gonna happen this year, because I loved High Rocks so much. I wanna be doing another High Rocks this year. I also have 2 marathons that I'm doing at the end of the year. So I currently have a lot, and I think to do another huge event, and like a 70.3 is a huge event, would just be like too much on my body. But maybe like early next year I can start to think about that. Somebody said, what has been your favorite moment since moving to the USA? I have like genuinely had like so many. To pinpoint one is really difficult. I think there's like different kind of pockets of like moments, but I think maybe when I went to Yosemite recently and I just had that like weekend away and I really switched off, that was a really special moment for me, because I just got to really like be with myself and like be in nature, as like cheesy as that sounds. And I think when I sat and I looked at the lake, I was just like, this is so incredible, and like this is a part of the world that like I feel so grateful to be like witnessing and to be seeing and to be experiencing. So I think that was like a huge moment just for me to like feel nice. And then doing that half marathon is something that I'll remember for forever. The next one is somebody said, how do you cope with being so far away from your family and your friends? And that is like something that I really struggle with. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be in terms of feeling like very disconnected. Being on a different time zone just creates such a barrier. And I knew this anyway from being out here last year, but I think from moving, it just feels very amplified and it's difficult to keep up to date with everyone and everything. And that was kind of what I was touching on at the beginning of the video, and being burnt out because I'm trying to do too much. And I often feel like I'm letting people down, and I feel like that a lot with my friends and my family in the UK. Like I feel like if I'm here and I'm living my life and I'm being really present, then I'm not being present with them and I'm not giving them enough attention, and it's hard. I feel like I'm in a bit of a tug of war at the moment, and it's definitely something that hopefully with time it'll get easier. And I think my parents, my sister are amazing, and a lot of my friends are amazing. They really understand it and they're giving me, you know, a lot of time and a lot of space, and they understand that I can't FaceTime all the time because the prime time for them to FaceTime is in the middle of my day when I'm usually working or doing things. So it's just navigating around it and making the most of the moments when we can speak. This question is great. Somebody said, what is your main goal in fitness? You're such an inspiration. Oh my goodness, what is my main goal in fitness? Like, if you can't tell, I have many goals at the moment, but I think like if you can take anything from like the amount I'm doing in fitness this year, it's that you don't have to choose one thing. I think getting into running really opened me up to this new world of fitness and this new world of like endurance sport, and I fell in love with it. I love running so much. I feel so passionate about it that it kind of then made me think like, okay, well, like what other areas of fitness and sport have I not really tried, like cycling or swimming? And I've fallen in love with cycling. Like I love getting out on my bike. Like it just feels like such a treat for me. I don't love swimming as much, but it's just part of being a triathlete. But I'm proud of myself for trying it. So I think my overall goal in fitness is to really like try everything and put myself out there and put my all into everything and take that pressure away from having to be like the best at something, because I'm not the best runner, I'm not the fastest runner, I'm not the fastest cyclist, and that's not the goal for me. The goal for me is to try things and enjoy them. Like I cannot wait to look back in like 10 years time and be like, oh my goodness, I did a triathlon, I did a high rocks, I did marathons. Like those are so cool, and I cannot wait to look back at all of the incredible things that I've done and all the experiences that have come alongside them. Because for me, it's not about necessarily like saying I've run a marathon. It's about that experience of running a marathon, like going to a new place, exploring a new place, meeting new people, and having that race day. Like that is a memory that you hold on to forever. So I guess creating memories through fitness is my goal and something that I love doing. I love this question. Somebody said, how do you navigate the hard days, the days where you simply feel so down? I have just really come to terms with allowing myself to feel what I need to feel on those days. I previously am somebody that would try to target feeling down and overwhelmed with being overly productive, because if I'm being productive and I'm ticking things off, then I'm like ticking off goals and that should make me feel good. But really all I'm doing is just, number one, ignoring how I feel, because those feelings are still there, they're just under the surface. And number two, putting more on my plate when I don't need to be doing that. I don't need to be putting more stress on myself than I'm already feeling. So actually just being really kind to myself, and I know that sounds super basic, but like genuinely being kind to myself and being like, you know what, I just feel like crap today, so I'm gonna do what I need to do, but I'm not going to do any extra, and I'm going to take a bit of time for myself. And something that I do is I feel very overwhelmed by like my phone and my laptop and social media when I feel down, because it just feels very consuming, and I feel like I just take in too much content that just isn't doing anything. It just turns my brain into mush. So I've actually started to put my phone and my laptop in phone jail. So I have like a little box over there, and I put my phone and my laptop in them, and I close it, and I just don't look at them, and I'll pick up my journal and I'll do some journaling, or I'll watch TV, or I'll read my book, and I just take time away from everything, and it just alleviates so much stress. And it's just doing things for you in that moment that are going to help your brain feel like a kinder and a nicer place to be in. Wrapping up onto the final two questions now. So the next one is, what are you most excited about next month? So it's currently the 8th of June as I record this. Next month is July. That marks a month that I go back to the UK. I am so excited. Like, I miss the UK. And I think for a while I was like, oh, I shouldn't say that I miss the UK, because that means that like I'm not grateful to be here, or I don't love being here. I love LA, I love my life here. I'm so grateful that I've moved. I'm so happy that I made that jump. And that doesn't mean that I can't miss the UK, because the UK is just such a great place in its own way. And like, I always knew that anyway, but I think being away from it, like I am craving a bit of UK time. I'm craving seeing my family, seeing my family dog, hanging out with my dad, my mum, my friends from home. So when I go home, I'm doing loads of really, really fun things. Some things that I will be sharing with you guys soon that can involve all of you as well. But the first thing that I'm doing is I'm actually landing into London and the next day I'm running the Battersea half marathon with my dad and my sister, and my mum's gonna come to London with the dog as well, and that I just cannot wait for. Like, what, like, number one, what an amazing thing to do as soon as I arrive into London, just like run around it. But number two, to like do my favorite thing in the world, which is run with like my family and then see my mum and my dog as well. So that is probably the thing that I am the most excited for. Like, thinking about that is just making me like smile from ear to ear. The final question that we're gonna end on is, what is your biggest insecurity slash thing you are most proud of in life? My biggest insecurity, and it's funny because when I read this I was like, where do I even start? And I feel like it is apparent in my content sometimes that I suffer with insecurities, and even I watch my content back and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, why are you like doing yourself down like that? Like, I'll be like, oh well, I'm not very smart, oh well, I'm not very good at this, and it's just like stand tall in the 2 feet that you have, Holly. Like, we're sick of this. And I had this realization recently, and I was like, I'm really sick of not being my own biggest cheerleader, and I definitely need to be better at that. And I feel like I've spoken about this for a very long time, but actually I need to do it, and I need to move forward and do it. So I would probably say like one of my biggest insecurities is just being an insecure person. Like, I don't like that. I don't like projecting it. I don't like projecting it through my social media. I don't like projecting it onto other people. Like, it's not nice, and I don't like doing it, and I'm fed up of it, and I'm moving on, and hopefully I'm moving into this new chapter in my life where I am going to be my biggest cheerleader, and I'm going to be supporting myself and cheering myself on from the literal rooftops. The thing that I am most proud of in life, and I love this because I actually feel like there's a couple of things that I could say, and I love that for me. I love that there's a few things that I can think of. I'm going to say like 2 things. Number one is Strong Girl Society. I am so endlessly proud of that community, and just how that came from me just having a thought in a gym and just being like, oh, I'm gonna go home and make this Facebook group, and like watching what it's blossomed into, and watching how many members of that community we have, and how many girls we have helped run half marathons and marathons with. Like, nothing ever brings me more joy than getting a message from a girl like, oh, I completed my first marathon using your guide. Like, that, like, money can't buy that. Like, that is genuinely the most insane feeling in the world, and that is truly what fulfills me over anything else on social media, like likes and comments and, you know, any of that stuff. Like, that stuff could like go away tomorrow, and I would feel fulfilled knowing that I'd at least helped one girl run a marathon or a half marathon. And the second thing I would say I'm most proud of is how I've done everything myself, and how independent I am because of what I've kind of achieved through social media. And I hate saying that because I never want to sound like, oh, like I achieved like X, Y, Z, but I am really proud of the fact that I'm sat in an apartment in LA, and I got myself here through social media, through creating a platform, through my business and Strong Girl Society. Like, I did those things, and I haven't taken a penny off anyone else to do them, and I feel like that is something that I am really proud of. And I don't really say that a lot, but I am really proud of myself for doing that and for getting here, because there's not a huge amount of people that can say that they've done that. So that is something that I am very, very proud of. But that does wrap up the Q&A. I feel like this has been a little bit of a long one, but I hope that you guys have enjoyed. I definitely didn't hold back. I told you guys that I wouldn't. I feel like I've shared a lot of the tea. I feel like you guys are really up to date with like everything that has been going on, and I have definitely just overshared. But I love that because I feel like that's like just me. I just am an oversharer, and I feel like that's how I feel the most connected to you guys on my platform, is when you do know everything about my life. And I feel like I have always shared, and I will always be a sharer. But please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.